Ignoring Guofei's slip of the tongue, Lin Yi continued tending to his fruit garden. Yao Yao ran over and asked, "Brother Lin, are you leaving now? Let me say something to my mom. Is there someone who can go with us?" Lin Yi happily replied, "No problem, you can arrange it." Lin Yi also had his own plans, so he instructed Yao Yao, "I'll go back to prepare a little, then come to your house to pick you up, okay?" A black car kept following behind the light blue car. Inside the light blue car, Du Yao happily said, "I knew it. There's something going on with you and that handsome guy in this village, right? You go around his house every day. In the end, I finally have evidence today." Du Yao happily looked at Yao Yao and continued, "I see Guofei's car behind us. Are you really taking 2 cars?" Yao Yao cheerfully responded, "He said he wanted to follow us. I couldn't do anything about it." Yao Yao smiled brightly. "You're being too much, you know. We are all classmates. Even if you don't like him, you should at least be polite. Besides, we are still interning at your dad's place. We can't mess around." Yao Yao looked at Lin Yi seriously. "Brother Lin, can we stop over there for a bit?" Lin Yi stopped the car, and Yao Yao opened the door and got out. Seeing this, Guofei also stopped his car and got out. Guofei happily looked at Yao Yao opening the car door and said, "Don't be deceived by his fancy car. It's not that comfortable to sit in. It's better to sit in my car." Yao Yao seriously looked at Guofei and said, "No, what I mean is that we should go sit in Lin's car together." Guofei looked at Yao Yao in astonishment and said, "Huh? Sit in his car? No way, that's absolutely impossible. Me sitting in his car?" Yao Yao stood with her arms crossed, seriously looking at Guofei and said, "You don't have to sit, but don't follow us in your car anymore." Du Yao inside the car happily looked at Guofei and said, "All right, Guofei, stop being stubborn. Get in the car, we are all adults. If you don't get in, then just give them some space." Guofei felt quite dissatisfied, but still reluctantly moved to Lin Yi's car. He sat in the passenger seat next to Lin Yi and fastened his seatbelt. Du Yao in the back happily said, "A luxury car is indeed different. It's very comfortable to sit in." Guofei was taken aback, showing his displeasure towards Lin Yi and said, "This car, apart from being expensive, is just like any other car. I can buy one for over 100 million, I just don't like to show off. Later when we get to TH, I'll arrange for everyone to have a meal, choose the best place." Yao Yao seriously propped her hands against the window of the car and said, "No need." Guofei said somewhat seriously and arrogantly, "It's fine. I've been to Nation TH a few times. That place isn't very expensive." The light blue car of Lin Yi was zooming ahead. Guofei casually continued, "Last week, my dad spent 5,000 to treat guests in Nation TH. I didn't think it was that expensive." Du Yao looked at Guofei with amusement. "More than 5,000 and it's still not expensive? Your father is a bit rich and generous." Lin Yi was still driving seriously. Guofei continued to boast arrogantly, turning back to Du Yao and Yao Yao. "Du Yao, later when we get to Nation TH, I'll take you to eat. The taste is really not just okay. I brought quite a bit of money, so let me cover all the expenses for these 2 days." Lin Yi cheerfully looked at Guofei. "Thank you, Mr. Guo. Then I won't be polite with you." Guofei arrogantly looked at Lin Yi. "You just focus on driving. When we get to Nation TH, you will definitely have your horizons broadened. As for this car, if there's nothing else to do, don't always take it out to show off. You should learn from me. The principle is not to flaunt wealth, don't you understand?" Lin Yi seriously but happily looked at Guofei. "Got it. I'll pay more attention from now on." Guofei sat cross-legged arrogantly, looking at Lin Yi. "All right, hurry up and drive. I can tell just by your appearance that you haven't experienced much in life. You must be just a poor person in Nation TH. That said, this car must have been bought with borrowed money." It was dark, and Lin Yi's car kept moving forward. 2 hours later, in the streets of Nation TH, Du Yao looked astonished through the car window. The nightlife in Nation TH is truly beautiful. No wonder it's a key economic hub of Nation H. Guofei glanced at Du Yao, boasting, "Of course, the prosperity of Nation TH is not just an illusion. Last winter, I bought a coat here for more than 3,000. That's over a month's salary of those intellectuals. Yao Yao, sitting behind, looked at Guo Fei with annoyance, thinking to herself, Guo Fei is really unbearable. Every sentence is just self-promotion. Guo Fei seriously said to Lin Yi, choose a place to eat. I'm sure the two of them are a bit hungry by now. Lin Yi happily replied, Oh, I've already chosen. We're on our way there now. We should be arriving soon. Lin Yi stopped the car in front of a restaurant. We've arrived. It's right inside here. Guo Fei looked at the restaurant, somewhat displeased. Where is this? Why does it look like a food stall? Didn't I ask you to find a better place? Lin Yi said seriously, I think this place is very nice. Look at the flowers and trees here. The environment is really good. Guo Fei looked at Lin Yi with displeasure. It's not even a bit extravagant. Compared to the hotel I stayed at last year, it's far inferior. Guo Fei looked at Du Yao and Yao Yao and suggested, Du Yao, Yao Yao, let's change places. It's been a long time since I've come to Nation TH. I'll take everyone to eat the best food. Du Yao looked at Guo Fei. Let's not change. I feel a bit hungry already. Yao Yao looked at Guo Fei seriously. Let's not ask for too much. Lin is a native of Nation TH. Since he chose this place, the taste should be good. Guo Fei proudly walked away. Fine then. Lin Yi happily said, I'm sorry about this. I couldn't find a place to your liking. Simple food is fine. Du Yao and Yao Yao looked at Guo Fei from behind. The four of them walked into the restaurant. In front of them was a Renaissance-style statue, an antique clock alongside several old paintings. Du Yao happily looked around. This place has its own style. In other places, I've never seen decorations like this. The four of them moved to a quite luxurious dining table. Guo Fei looked around and nodded. It looks good. At least it's not an ordinary restaurant. Let's eat here. The waitress cheerfully approached with a menu. Welcome, dear guests. Have a nice evening. Here is the dinner menu. Please take a look at what you'd like to order. Guo Fei proudly said, Ladies first. Let them choose their dishes before me. The waitress happily handed the menu to Yao Yao. Du Yao also leaned in to see. Both of them were startled. Top-grade lobster, 2,999. Persian large lobster sautéed with crab, 10,223. Du Yao anxiously looked at Guo Fei. Guo Fei, I think we should change to another place. Guo Fei arrogantly replied, Why change places? Aren't you too hungry? Just choose whatever you want. No need to be polite with me. Yao Yao closed the menu and looked worriedly at Guo Fei. But the cheapest dish here is more than 2,000. That's quite expensive. Guo Fei was taken aback, picked up a glass of water to drink, and looked at Yao Yao. I've eaten at 5-star hotels that weren't even this expensive. What's so pricey about a small restaurant like this? You two just go ahead and choose. Du Yao and Yao Yao looked at the menu in surprise, both deciding to order 1 portion of special soup. The waitress noted the order. Got it, 4 portions of special soup. Guo Fei looked at the waitress nervously. No, you heard wrong. We only ordered 1 portion, not 4. The waitress looked a bit disappointed at Guo Fei. Sir, the special soup is served for each person. It is charged per person. Lin Yi looked seriously at the menu. Then let's take 4 portions. Guo Fei already said so, and he's treating us tonight. Moreover, he told us to order freely. We don't need to save anything for him. Lin Yi seriously called out the order in front of Yao Yao. Add 4 portions of steamed abalone with wine, salted steamed duck, wild rhubarb flowers. The waitress happily took note. Lin Yi closed the menu and seriously said, The main dishes will be crab soup dumplings, salted fish fried rice, 2 glasses of fresh orange juice, and 2 soft drinks. The waitress happily took back the menu from Lin Yi. Yes, sir. Please wait a moment. The waitress cheerfully walked away from the table of 4, and Yao Yao looked at Lin Yi with concern. Brother Lin, just now you ordered half a piece of abalone. It seems to be over 10,000 for one. 4 portions would be more than 50,000. Lin Yi cheerfully looked at Guo Fei, who seemed a bit anxious, his face pale. I can't help it anymore. In a place like this, Guofei even complains that it's not luxurious enough. Lin Yi looked at Guofei seriously. This price should be all right, right? Although it doesn't reach the level you expected, it should be close. Don't you think so? Guofei, anxious, tried to appear cheerful. Well, this is acceptable. I can barely manage to eat a meal here. Lin Yi observed Guofei. Although the food here is quite ordinary, the wine is really good. It's all red wine that has been brewed for over 10 years. Let me order a bottle for us to drink. That statement startled the waitress a bit, and Guofei, anxious, began to sweat while looking at Lin Yi. No, 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 you have to drive later. There's no need to order wine. Lin Yi happily responded, I can't drink, but you can. Since we are here, and you are the one paying, you should enjoy yourself. Guofei, scared and worried, raised his hand. No, no, drinking alone isn't fun at all. Let's skip the wine. Guofei lowered his head, his face darkened with worry, thinking, my parents work all year just to afford a meal at this place. Furthermore, this is the first time I've seen a restaurant that charges per person. Lin Yi happily raised his glass and drank. 3-star Michelin or whatever, it's just like that. It's only a little more special than a regular restaurant. We should thank Guofei for this. Du Yao looked at Guofei, who was worried but still tried to smile. Old classmate, thank you for bringing us here to experience this. A lot of delicious dishes were served, beautifully arranged in vibrant colors. Du Yao picked up her knife and fork, happily saying, oh my, this abalone is huge. It's almost as big as my fist. Lin Yi smiled. Let's eat together. Try it. I'm feeling a bit hungry now. Du Yao joyfully took a bite and then looked at Yao Yao. Yao Yao, hurry and try this abalone. It's super delicious. Yao Yao cheerfully replied, it's really delicious. Although it's a bit expensive, there's a reason for the price. People with money really know how to enjoy. I've never seen one this big before. Guofei anxiously glanced at his account balance, which only had 45,000 left. He thought, with this measly amount, it's definitely not enough to pay. Soon, the food on the table was all gone. Lin Yi wiped his mouth with a napkin and happily said, the meal is done, now let's find a place to stay. We'll get up early tomorrow to get started. Guofei quickly stood up, worriedly pointing outside and said to everyone, then you all go sit and wait for me. I'll finish paying, and then I'll come out to meet you. Du Yao was holding her phone, anxious. This meal seems a bit expensive. I still have 2,000. I'll give it to you. Yao Yao also held her phone, nervously looking at Guofei. I still have 3,500 left. Guofei tried to appear cheerful, raising his hand. Oh no, no need. I already said I'm treating today. How could I let you guys spend money? Just go out and wait for me. Du Yao happily stood up. Really? Then we won't be polite with you anymore. Lin Yi, Yao Yao, and Du Yao walked out in front of Guofei. At this moment, Guofei was so worried he was about to cry, thinking, if I don't have enough money, I don't know how many dishes I'll have to wash here. Guofei stood up, anxiously looking at the waiter. Excuse me, what is the total for our table? The waiter cheerfully replied, the total is 89,632. We collect 89,600. Guofei was shocked to hear this, falling back onto the chair. So much. He anxiously scratched his head. I rushed out and didn't bring much cash. The cheerful employee looked at Guofei and said, Sir, here's the thing. The man who was just sitting at your table has settled the bill. Guofei was somewhat taken aback and asked in surprise, Settled it already? A moment later, in Lin Yi's light blue car, Guofei smiled and said to Lin Yi, Brother Lin, you really? I said I would pay, so why did you pay? Lin Yi replied seriously, the total was nearly 90,000. Are you sure you want to pay for it yourself? Lin Yi held out his phone in front of Guofei. You can transfer the money back to me. Paying over 80,000 hurt me to death. Guofei felt anxious, but since Xiao Yao was sitting behind, he wanted to save face. He scratched his face, feeling a bit worried. All my money is in my card, so I have no way to give it to you. Let me withdraw some, and we can talk then. Lin Yi said seriously, All right, Then let's go to the bank. Guo Fei, sitting beside him, was so anxious that sweat was dripping down his face. He tried to keep a cheerful demeanor and raised his hand. How about this? You pay for the meal and the hotel, and I will pay you back. Let's call it even. The car of Lin Yi continued to drive forward. Lin Yi seriously looked at Guo Fei and said, "Weren't you the one who said earlier that you would cover all the expenses to Nation TH? Why am I paying for the food?" Guo Fei looked at Lin Yi with pride and replied, "You should show a little generosity too. Haven't you already paid for it? Why pretend to be so generous?" Yao Yao looked at Lin Yi with worry and said, "Brother Lin, we can go find somewhere else. There's no need to go to a fancy place. Actually, both of us have enough money to stay at a hotel." Guo Fei looked at Yao Yao seriously and asked, "Yao Yao, what are you talking about?" "I said we would go out today, and I would cover all the expenses. How can I let you two spend money?" Lin Yi looked at Guo Fei again and asked, "Then how much money do you have left in your pocket? What level can we afford to stay at?" Guo Fei sat with pride and answered, "A luxurious hotel is fine, whatever you want." After driving for a while, Lin Yi finally stopped at a hotel. From the outside, it could be seen that it was extremely luxurious. He sat in the car, smiled, and said to Guo Fei, "What do you think about this place? Is it classy enough?" Guo Fei looked at the hotel in front of him with slight panic. Although he was scared and sweating inside, he still tried to appear calm and replied, "This place is also good." Yao Yao and Guo Jiao saw the car stop and opened the door to get outside. When they saw the hotel in front of them, the two were taken aback. Yao Yao said worriedly, "An Lin, this place is too good, right? We are not important people, just find a chain of hotels." Lin Yi leisurely got out of the car and calmly replied to Yao Yao, "Since we are here, we should enjoy a bit." He then looked at Guo Fei and said, "Moreover, someone else is paying, so you two don't need to worry. Just relax and enjoy your stay." Guo Fei couldn't help but feel anxious upon hearing those words. The four of them walked into the hotel. In the lobby, two female attendants welcomed them and invited them inside. When they reached the reception desk, Lin Yi quickly called out, "Book 4 Presidential Suites." The female attendant heard this and joyfully informed Lin Yi, "Hello, sir. Our presidential suites are 78,000 per night. The total for 4 rooms is 312,000. After hearing the high room rate, Guo Fei was so stunned that he couldn't speak. Yao Yao, after hearing it, also felt surprised. She turned to Lin Yi and said, "An Lin, there's no need to book 4 rooms. Fei Fei and I can share 1 room." Lin Yi looked at her, smiled lightly, then turned to Guo Fei and emphasized, "It's time for you to show your strength." The scene startled Guo Fei, making him break out in a cold sweat. Guo Fei turned pale and pointed at Lin Yi, reproaching him. "Lin Yi, you're going a bit too far. Don't you know your own identity? Why would you want to stay in presidential suites?" Lin Yi smiled and mockingly responded to Guo Fei, "Then what kind of room do you want?" Guo Fei immediately walked over to the price list, pointed directly at the economy room, priced at 1,888, and said, "I think a room for 1 night at 1,888 is not bad at all." With one hand on his hip and the other pointing at Lin Yi, he said, "You're not a big shot. Why flaunt it like that? By the way, do you even have money? Coming in and demanding such an expensive room." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Yi pulled out his black VIP card and arrogantly replied, "Sorry, I really do have money." Lin Yi placed one hand on his hip and raised his black card high for Guo Fei to see clearly. He handed the black card to the receptionist and ordered, "Give me 2 presidential suites." That scene made Guo Fei feel incredibly embarrassed. He clenched his jaw in envy. The female receptionist accepted the black card, happily processed the payment, and then returned the card to Lin Yi. "Sir, the rooms are ready. Please take your room keys." Yao Yao rushed over to receive the room keys and handed them to Lin Yi. He took the keys from her hand and said, "Let's go. It's time to sleep." We have more important matters to discuss tomorrow morning. Suddenly, Guo Fei shouted at Lin Yi, "Wait a minute!" Guo Fei, feeling left out, grumbled at Lin Yi, "Why did you only book 2 rooms?" In response to that scolding, Lin Yi remained indifferent. With one hand in his pocket, he pointed at the price list sarcastically. "Did you not want to stay in the 1888 room? I'm not used to the standard room I booked, so I won't be staying with you." After saying that, Lin Yi turned around and walked away, leaving Guo Fei behind, not knowing what to say. The elevator had arrived. The 3 of them got on. Before leaving, Lin Yi instructed Yao Yao and Du Yao, "Go rest. Contact me by phone tomorrow morning." Gao Ra blushed and shyly said to Lin Yi in a self-reproaching tone, "Lin Yi, it cost you money this time coming out." Lin Yi waved his hand, smiling. "Let's not talk about it. It's not much. Hurry and go rest." After finishing the conversation, the 3 went to their respective rooms. The next morning, when Lin Yi arrived at the lobby, he found the 3 of them already there. Guo Fei was chatting with Du Yao, and when he saw Lin Yi, he ran over and said in a fawning voice, "Lin Yi, are we setting off now?" Facing this 180-degree change in attitude, Lin Yi showed clear disdain and thought to himself, "A dog licker is a dog licker. The turnaround is really quick." He ignored Guo Fei and turned to Yao Yao and Du Yao, saying, "Aren't you 2 going to buy books? I'll take you to the bookstore first and then go buy Weed Killer. It should be done in no time. By then, I'll go pick you up." Yao Yao slowly approached, wrapping her arm around Lin Yi, and said, "You said our book shopping wouldn't take long. How about we go with you, since we are free anyway?" Lin Yi smiled and replied gently, "Sure." A little later, everyone arrived at the bookstore. Lin Yi picked a book related to physical components and semiconductors and read it attentively. Yao Yao, seeing him so focused, curiously asked, "Lin, did you study information technology in college?" Lin Yi explained, "I studied marketing in college, but I have an interest in this." Du Yao watched Lin Yi answering and felt her cheeks heat up as she exclaimed, "Lin is just too handsome, rich and not pretentious at all." Lin Yi reached up to grab a file on the shelf. He picked a book with a cover featuring design and chip stamping, then opened it to read intently. He thought to himself, "I never expected that design and chip stamping are still the 2 most important segments." While Lin Yi was immersed in studying the material, Yao Yao walked over from a distance. Her eyes gazed at him passionately, her cheeks slightly flushed, thinking to herself, "So handsome." Suddenly, over there, Guo Fei and Du Yao also walked over. Du Yao spoke up, "Lin, we are done. We can go now." Hearing that, Lin Yi put the file he had just been reading back in its place, then replied, "Okay." They arrived at a well-renovated supermarket. On the shelves, there were bottles of herbicide with eye-catching green labels. Lin Yi walked closer to the shelf and picked up a bottle to examine it. After a while, Yao Yao stood in front of the supermarket gate with a shopping bag in her hand. Behind her were Guo Fei and Du Yao. She smiled brightly at the person in front of her. "Lin, thank you for taking me to buy books these past 2 days. You've spent quite a bit." Lin Yi, seated in the back row of the car, politely replied, "It's nothing. I also have to go home to deal with the weeds." After saying that, Lin Yi's car began to roll away. Yao Yao remained standing there, waving goodbye at his car. The sun had risen high at that moment. At Lin Yi's house, he was standing in the yard, staring intently at his phone, pondering about the call. Aunt Shen just now, there must be something going on. Guessing as much, he pressed the call button. Aunt Shen was now wearing a light blue long dress, looking quite elegant, comfortably leaning against a leather chair. When she saw Lin Yi's call, she immediately picked up. "The matter between you and He Renping has been resolved by someone. The Wang family has stepped in to protect them." Hearing those 2 words, Lin Yi was surprised and asked again, "Wang family?" On this side, Lin Yi's face darkened. His voice became more serious. "Is Wang Xian from that family? There's no way they would help them without any benefit." Aunt Shen on this side also nodded in agreement. She said, "Your line of thinking is correct. The Wang family can't offer help for free. The status of the Wang family in Yanjing will become increasingly stable in the future. It will be very difficult for the Liang family to surpass them." After hanging up with Aunt Shen, Lin Yi sat in a daze, pondering. Such a major event happened, and the Wang family managed to support them. He sat down on the recliner behind him. Lin Yi rested his head on his hands, crossed his legs, and closed his eyes, thinking quietly, "It seems I have underestimated them." Suddenly, a message notification rang on his phone. Lin Yi opened it and saw Liu Hong texted, "10 a.m. tomorrow, gather at the base. We'll discuss the specific situation in detail then." Lin Yi read the message that just arrived and smiled with delight. After waiting so long, the final mission has finally come. The next day finally arrived, and at the base location, Lin Yi entered the room. He looked around at those who had arrived. The room had a brown carpet laid out, and inside was a long round table, surrounded by neatly arranged swivel chairs. Seeing Lin Yi walk in, Ningche and Qiu Luo both turned to look at him with probing eyes. A man approached him and pointed to a few empty spots, saying, "Find a seat for yourself." After sitting for a while, the door of the room creaked open, and Liu Hong along with two others walked in, holding a folder. He spoke up. "Now that everyone has arrived, I will discuss the specific mission." Liu Hong walked to the head of the table and declared loudly, "We are recruiting new team members this time, mainly because the people in Team 2 and Team 3 have encountered ambushes and have suffered varying degrees of casualties. In the past years, the missions we have carried out have all been the most dangerous and arduous ones. Death here has become a normal state." The people sitting below were terrified upon hearing Liu Hong's words, their eyes wide in disbelief at what they had just heard. As for Lin Yi, he sat quietly in the corner, without the slightest hint of fear or change in expression. Qiu Luo glanced over at him and silently remarked, "Lin Yi has a very strong psychological quality." Seeing the fear among everyone below, Liu Hong furrowed his brows slightly and continued, "I will give you a minute to think. If you regret it, you can leave now." He had just finished speaking when the entire room suddenly fell silent, not a sound could be heard, and no one stepped forward. Liu Hong saw that no one was stepping up and nodded repeatedly, smiling with satisfaction. "Very good. Everyone's resolve is very steadfast." He turned to Qiu Luo, who was seated, and continued, "Xiao Qiu, please tell everyone about the specific situation." Qiu Luo immediately stood up, accepting the order. "Understood." She walked to the center and spoke loudly. "This time we suffered severe losses because our movements were exposed. Therefore, the mission for this operation is revenge." She pointed to the board displaying the images of 4 individuals, continuing, "The man holding the cigar is named Jeffrey. He is the owner of Black Gold in Nation M. His business, aside from selling intelligence on Tilia Island, is also involved in a lot of smuggled ore." Yu Luo continued to point at the 3 individuals below. The other 3 are his subordinates, named Jimmy, Paul, and Eliza. She paid special attention to the person named Jimmy, who had red hair and a menacing face, with a strong physique. Her voice became more serious. "He is the intelligence officer of the entire Black Gold Corporation, and our information was betrayed by him. Therefore, the target of this operation is him, Jimmy." Ningche stood up, held the report, and spoke in a serious tone. "This is the information related to him. Tomorrow night, the Quantum cruise ship will set sail. Jimmy will appear on the ship to make a deal with an unidentified target. Our mission is to intercept him on the way and prevent him from obtaining the ore from him." Qiu Luo turned to the people sitting and declared loudly, "This mission will be carried out by me and the team leader. Additionally, this is also a training mission for all of you before engaging with Tilia Island. I hope everyone can perform well." The group in the room responded in unison, "Understood." Lin Yi took the information about Jimmy that Ningche had distributed and frowned in thought. There is a suspicious point. With the organization's strict confidentiality, How could the action information be leaked? This is too suspicious. At this moment, a bold man from the group stepped forward and asked Qiu Luo, "Team leader, when will we take action?" Qiu Luo replied, "The cruise starts at 6 p.m. national time. Our mission is to reach the Miami port before 6 p.m. and board the ship. Remember, all actions must follow command and should not be taken independently." Qiu Luo glanced at Tao Cheng standing next to him and made a signal with his eyes. Receiving the signal, he nodded to indicate his understanding. Suddenly, a blank piece of paper and a pen appeared in front of the table where the people were sitting in the room. One of them, frightened, picked up the paper, looked at Qiu Luo, and tremblingly asked, "Captain, what is this?" Qiu Luo replied calmly, "Because the mission is bound to have risks, everyone must write a farewell letter before taking action, as it is very possible that you may not come back." Hearing this, the people below felt extremely terrified. They immediately exclaimed, "Captain, we are all newcomers. We have no experience at all. Do we really have to participate in such a dangerous mission right after arriving?" Ning Che also stood up at this moment, resting his hands on his hips, and replied seriously, "This is a tradition of the organization. All members are trained in battles like this. The number of deaths each year must exceed 40% of the total, so it is necessary to write a farewell letter before carrying out missions." After hearing this, everyone was shocked and horrified, hanging their heads in silence. Suddenly, among the crowd, a young man raised his hand and said, "Team leader, I want to ask you something." He stepped forward, trembling, and whispered, "If I withdraw now, is it still too late?" Hearing this, another young man turned and shouted, "What are you talking about? When we signed up, we said we would advance and retreat together. What do you mean by withdrawing now?" Guo Qingkun responded, "Mr. Zhang, you can't blame me for this." His face had turned pale, and he stuttered, "I'm really scared of dying. I thought the death people talked about was just to scare us. I didn't expect it to be real." Mr. Zhang, who was mentioned, was equally alarmed, and he replied strongly, "Hey, this is your own business. I can't stop you. If you want to go, then go." Guo Qingkun approached Qiu Luo, bowed slightly, and asked for permission. "Team leader Qiu, I'm really sorry, but I want to withdraw now." She nodded in agreement. "You have the freedom to choose. You can go now." Just as Guo Qingkun left, a young girl also stepped up, still shaking, and said, "Team leader Qiu, I also want to withdraw." Qiu Luo crossed her arms and asked loudly, "Is there anyone else who wants to withdraw? If you want to go, now is the time. If not, write a farewell letter and immediately prepare to act. Once we board the plane, it will be too late for anyone to withdraw." After hearing the teacher finish speaking, everyone immediately raised their hands to withdraw. "I want to withdraw. I feel the same way." Qiu Luo's face suddenly turned dark, her gaze exuding fearsome pressure. She stared at each person who was leaving. At that moment, seemingly unable to bear it any longer, Qiu Luo, feeling uncomfortable and angry, shouted loudly, "All right, if you want to withdraw, you don't need to tell me any more. Just go directly." Lin Yi over here was still sitting comfortably in his chair, eyes closed in rest, indifferent to the fact that more and more people were leaving the room. Ning Qi, holding a cigarette in his hand, said to those who remained in the room, "What needs to be said has been said. If anyone isn't leaving, then write a will and start taking action." At this moment, only about 6 people remained in the room, including Lin Yi. Mr. Zhang hesitated as if he wanted to say something, but then held back. In the end, he raised his hand and stepped forward, his face pale, saying, "Team leader, wait! I also want to withdraw." Lin Yi looked at him, who was bowing his head in fear while smirking inwardly, thinking, just a moment ago, he was cursing Guo Qingkun, and now he's acting so flustered. Upon hearing Mr. Zhang's words, Qiu Luo couldn't help but point at him and yelled, "Go! The organization doesn't need a coward like you!" Seeing that he had already left, Qiu Luo turned around, scanned the room, and coldly spoke. "There are 4 people left now. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you." Lin Yi was sitting quietly in his chair, arms crossed and looking down at the piece of paper placed on the table. Tao Cheng stepped closer to Lin Yi and asked, "Lin Yi, why haven't you written yet? Do you have other thoughts?" Qiu Yuluo also noticed the conversation between the two and angrily said, "If you're scared, get lost. Don't waste our time here." Lin Yi spun the pen in his hand and calmly replied, "Are you out of your mind? If you're angry, don't take it out on me. Who said I don't want to write? I want to write 4 farewell letters. Is 1 sheet enough for me?" Ning Che questioned, "What do you mean by writing 4 farewell letters?" Lin Yi raised 4 fingers and said, "To treat everyone equally, everyone must write 1. My greatest advantage is that I am impartial. All 4 of you are important to me." Qiu Yuluo was looking at Lin Yi with a face full of confusion, but Ning Che ordered Tao Cheng, "Young man, I appreciate you. Tao Cheng, bring the remaining paper here." Tao Cheng replied, "Got it." Ning Che questioned, "You came down with 4, how can you handle them?" Qiu Yuluo felt embarrassed by Ning Che's remarks and hurriedly said, "What are you talking nonsense about? Pay attention to your image. The organization's reputation has been completely ruined by you." Ning Che replied, "A long-time virgin woman like you can't stop talking." Lin Yi, who was writing a will, laughed and said, "It must not necessarily be an endocrine disorder. I guess it's infertility." Ning Che was startled by Lin Yi's comment and asked, "Ah, you noticed that too?" Lin Yi responded, "Didn't they tell you that I'm a cardiologist?" Qiu Yuluo felt shy and blushed upon hearing Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi wondered, "Are you guys exaggerating? Who says that executing a mission will definitely lead to death? You're all living well, aren't you?" Ning Che replied, "We've managed to live this long. At least we have some luck. We didn't spread sensational rumors. The organization's missions are indeed very dangerous." Lin Yi said, "I don't think it's as terrifying as that. If something happens, just run away. If you can't fight them, I don't believe you can't escape from them." Qiu Yuluo, upset by Lin Yi's words, asked, "So what you're saying is, if something happens, you will run away?" Lin Yi responded, "If I can ensure my own safety, then I definitely won't run away. If the situation gets bad, then I have to run. Should I just wait there to die?" Qiu Yuluo stepped forward, grabbed the will on Lin Yi's desk, and said with an angry expression, "If you have this thought when joining the organization, then you don't need to write a will. We don't welcome people like you." Lin Yi looked at Qiu Yuluo with a somewhat unfriendly gaze and retorted, "Isn't waiting there to give your life in line with your values and sacrifices?" Qiu Yuluo shouted, "We don't endorse sacrifice, but someone who is overly eager to live and fears death like you will abandon your teammates when the situation gets critical. That's not what we want. I will tell Boss Liu about your issue, and you can leave right now." Lin Yi threw the pen down on the table along with the will, then walked out angrily, saying, "Crazy." Qiu Yuluo slammed her hand on the table, feeling frustrated. "If I had known he was this kind of person, I definitely wouldn't have brought him back in the first place." Ning Che replied, "You are already infertile, so you should calm down. It's not worth it." Ning Che continued, "His thoughts are quite normal. He has wealth, status, women, and even his own rights." Ning Che continued, "What right do you have to ask him to sacrifice and dedicate himself, to embrace feelings? He originally had his sights set on Tilia Island." Qiu Yuluo said to the people in the organization, "Everyone can make some arrangements. Prepare to set off." The people in the organization replied, "Understood." At the airport, the sky outside was very clear. Inside, Lin Yi was standing alone. A footstep was approaching Lin Yi, and Qiu Yuluo angrily said, "Even if you sneak over here, it's all useless. I've already told Boss Liu the organization will not take you in anymore." Lin Yi replied, "Who said I'm following you? Can't I go back to Nation TH?" Qiu Yuluo said, "The flight to Nation TH isn't boarding yet. How are you going to leave? Do you think this is a bus? You need to wait to board the plane." Lin Yi felt anxious while talking to Qiu Yuluo. He wondered, "How does the organization recruit fools like you?" Lin Yi pointed ahead. My plane has a private business entrance. Don't let poverty limit your imagination. Chu Yuluo and Ning Che were both surprised to see Lin Yi's plane. A private jet? Lin Yi left, saying, "In the future, try to use your brain when you talk. After all, you're the one leading the team. It would be easy for your subordinates to mock you." Ning Che also spoke up. With her IQ, she is definitely not a match for him. Don't get angry at him anymore. It's better to avoid losing face. Chu Yuluo replied angrily, "I hope I won't encounter him for the rest of my life. Let's go." At Nation M at the airport, Lin Yi's plane was slowly taking off, and Ding Xin had come to pick up Lin Yi, wearing a bright smile. "Mr. Lin," Lin Yi said, "it's been almost 3 months since you came here. You've worked hard. Is the work here progressing smoothly?" Ding Xin replied, "Absolutely perfect. Andy is very cooperative. We haven't faced any difficulties." Ding Xin continued, "With our current pace, in another month, my work here should be well settled. In a month, our lithography will be nearly ready." Lin Yi smiled. "Finally, we are doing this." Ding Xin walked with Lin Yi towards his car, saying, "Yes, it truly is quite touching. We have dedicated so much effort since we had nothing, but recently, the company here and Andy have been interacting more frequently. Our acquisition of Ying's shares is about to be exposed." The car door had closed. Lin Yi fastened his seatbelt and said, "This is just a matter of time. I guess there are already quite a few people starting to suspect, right?" Ding Xin replied, "Indeed, there are 2 suppliers who want to delay their deliveries, citing that the goods are undergoing inspection. It must be that the investors behind them have discovered something." Lin Yi's face became serious as he said, "The business sense of these people is truly sharp. They've reacted so quickly, beyond my expectations. Once the photolithography machine is launched, Lingyun Group will completely enter the international capital market. This is an unprecedented wave for us." The car of Lin Yi and Ding Xin started, and Ding Xin curiously asked, "Mr. Lin, do you have any arrangements? Are we going to the company or just around here?" Lin Yi replied, "Let's drop off our luggage at the hotel first. Then we can take a stroll on the beach." At the beach, Ding Xin and Lin Yi were sitting and enjoying themselves. Ding Xin said, "Mr. Lin, your sudden trip to Miami must be for something very important, right?" Ding Xin inquired, "Is there anything you need my help with?" Lin Yi looked towards the boat. "There's an event on the boat today. I came over to see if you have any connections." Ding Xin touched her face and said, "A few days ago, a rich guy invited me on his boat, but I declined. However, as far as I know, VIPs only need to approve a 5 million proof to get in." Lin Yi replied, "Here, as long as there is money, this is what we call ancestor, simple and brutal." Ding Xin said, "As long as there is money, even a person's dignity here can be bought." Ding Xin felt anxious as Lin Yi took out the knife. "Mr. Lin, are you planning to bring this onto the boat?" Lin Yi calmly wiped the blade. "Is this just to scare you for self-defense?" Ding Xin asked, "With your level, why do you still need to carry this? It feels like we're in a police movie." Lin Yi smiled as he looked at the knife in his hand. From several perspectives, the situation is somewhat similar. Lin Yi put the knife back in the box and closed the lid. Ding Xin wondered, "But you can't bring this on the boat. They will definitely check these things before boarding." Lin Yi replied, "It's okay. I have thought of a way." At that moment, a ship was docked nearby, and Ning Che was standing with Chu Yuluo and their team. Lin Yi put on his mask and thought, standing with Ning Che, they must be members of Team 3. Lin Yi approached the VIP door. So this must be the VIP passage. The receptionist there greeted warmly. "Sir, please present your ticket and identification." The receptionist gestured for him to proceed. "You may board the boat now. I wish you a pleasant journey." Scene transitions to the room. Mr. Lin rested his chin on his hand, pondering. Vardana is the eldest daughter of the Vaishnava family. What could possibly bring her here in person? He glanced at the camera through the computer screen, thinking, without Jimmy, could it be that he is disguising his identity among the ordinary crowd? Then there was a knock on his door. He opened it to find a young woman standing at the entrance. She politely said, "Hello, Mr. Lin." She introduced herself. "I am Jihua, the driver and assistant of Vadana." He coldly asked, "Vadana, how do you know I'm here?" She replied, "We just saw you in the lobby, but you were engaged in conversation with someone else. Therefore, they did not want to disturb you. Miss Hua wishes to meet you." He agreed and followed the young woman. In front of the room, there were 2 tall bodyguards standing guard, and Vadana greeted him with a shy smile. "Mr. Lin, I've been waiting for a long time." He looked around and said, "What a coincidence. I just happened to be free, with nothing to do, coming here to hang out and meeting an old acquaintance." Hearing that, she said, "Mr. Lin, you are not an ordinary person like that." She invited him to sit down and offered him a drink, saying, "If I remember correctly, the woman standing next to you earlier was Alice, the daughter of President Ying." He drank and replied, "That's right. I was only discussing business matters." Vadana eagerly said, "Mr. Lin, don't tell me you can discuss business with everyone, but not with me." Upon hearing her words, he was startled, but then calmly responded, "What are you talking about? Your clan is one of the most well-known financial corporations in the world. Many people want to collaborate with you." She held her glass of wine, placed her hand on Mr. Lin's shoulder, and said, "Surely you know. I want to pull you in. How many times, right? No matter when, you are always my first target." At that moment, there was an announcement at the door. "Miss Vadana, Mr. Hunt has arrived." She asked again, "Has Jimmy arrived yet?" Mr. Lin was surprised and thought, "Jimmy? The one who will transact with Jimmy is Vadana." The bodyguard outside the door announced, "He didn't come, only a person named Hunt." Hearing this, she waved her hand at the bodyguard and said, "Tell him to go back. If he is not satisfied, then this deal doesn't need to go through." Mr. Lin asked, "Do you have other appointments? If there's something else, I can leave first." Hearing this, she immediately held his hand and said, "It's just a small business deal. If it works out, that's great. If not, it's not a big deal." She added, "In my heart, Mr. Lin, you are the most important." Hearing this, he continued to sit down and said, "You make me feel shy." She blushed and said, "I'm not afraid. Mr. Lin, you tease me. You really are my ideal type. Aside from work, I always admire you." She continued, "If Mr. Lin agrees, I can unconditionally offer myself and spend a wonderful night with you." He also casually said, "Since it's been brought up this way, if I reject you, that would be a bit unmanly." Then, very naturally, she took off her green dress, leaving only black lingerie on her body. She looked at him and winked. After that, she cheerfully said, "Let me go run a bath for you." She left, leaving him sitting in the living room. The sound of water running in the bathroom was very clear. At that moment, there was a loud knock at the door, and Vadana quickly ran out to see what was happening, asking, "What's going on out there?" Mr. Lin threw the dress to her and said, "Put on the shirt first." At that moment, the door swung open. A middle-aged man with blonde hair, accompanied by 2 bodyguards, appeared. Mr. Lin recognized him. "Jimmy." Vadana angrily asked, "What do you want?" He was rude, laughing as he said, "I'm terribly sorry to disturb the enjoyment of the 2 of you." She replied heatedly, "Your acting like this shows no regard for Vadana at all." He cleared his throat and said, "No, Miss Vadana, don't say that." He laughed and said, "Your clan has an enormous influence over the entire world. I want you to come over to negotiate with me, for the safety of everyone, really. But since you refused, I've come here myself." She placed her hands on her hips and said, "I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. If the goods are already here, then one hand hands over the money, and the other hand hands over the goods." At that moment, he stepped in front of Mr. Lin and said, "Of course, that's not a problem. But there is someone here who is a bit distracting. I think we should resolve that first." She quickly wrapped her arms around Mr. Lin's and said, "He is my man. If you dare to lay a finger on him, then today's transaction is off." Jimmy coldly said, "I have no interest in knowing who he is. As long as it doesn't affect our deal, that's enough. Bring out your items." A moment later, Vandana walked out with a suitcase from the room. She handed the suitcase to Jimmy, who also returned a suitcase to her. Mr. Lin stood behind, contemplating. Inside Jimmy's suitcase must be the piece of basor, but I have no idea what's in Vandana's. Jimmy opened the suitcase to check. He smiled and said, "Everything is in order. A pleasant cooperation, Miss Vandana." Then he closed the suitcase and she said, "You can leave now. Don't disturb my mood any further." Jimmy waved goodbye, happily leaving the room, stating, "Pleasant cooperation." She turned around, lifting Mr. Lin's chin with an expectant gaze, and said, "Let's continue." However, he coldly brushed her hand away, saying, "We'll figure it out later. There are still injured people outside. I'm leaving now." At the hotel on the train, Mr. Lin sat in front of the computer and said, "The camera's security system really couldn't withstand a blow." He had easily obtained the footage of Jimmy and the two bodyguards as they entered the room. He joyfully exclaimed, "Got it. They were here." A while later, in room 2010, Jimmy opened the suitcase. He said, "Although there are only 10 vials, just looking at them is enough to enchant anyone." Inside the suitcase were glass vials containing a blue solution. He picked up one vial, shook it back and forth, and continued. "The technological means of the Vandana family cannot be underestimated. I am confident that in the future we can implement closer cooperation." He looked around and added, "So their opportunity is not far away now." He turned to the bodyguard and asked, "Has the helicopter been prepared?" The bodyguard replied, "Everything is ready. We can fly at any time." He continued, "The people from some organization who came to arrest you have already been subdued by us. When will the boss deal with it?" Jimmy put the suitcase into the safe and told the bodyguards, "You guys go check again to see if you can find any important information. If you don't cooperate..." He closed the safe, grinned malefically, and said, "Then we'll just throw it directly into the sea for the fish to eat." Jimmy dialed a phone number, saying, "The boss has retrieved it. They should be back in about 3 hours." At that moment, there was a knock on the door from outside. He hung up the phone and asked, "Who is it?" Mr. Lin stood outside the room and introduced himself. "I am Lin Yi. Miss Vandana sent me to come here." Jimmy stroked his chin and said, "Vandana, were you the man who was standing next to her earlier?" Lin Yi replied, "That's right. Miss Vandana asked me to bring you something." Jimmy peered through the peephole, but saw nothing. Angrily, he flung the door open and shouted, "What are you doing? Where are you?" At that moment, Mr. Lin quickly appeared before him. Jimmy was furious, his face turning purple with anger, and yelled, "Are you messing with me?" With a single kick, Mr. Lin knocked him back. Jimmy dodged the kick and took a defensive stance in the middle of the room. He clenched his jaw, fuming, and rubbed his wrist, asking, "What do you want? Did Vandana send you to rob me?" Mr. Lin calmly replied, "It's not a robbery. I'm here to take you away." Jimmy asked angrily, "Take me away? Who are you?" Then he continued, "No way. Their organization doesn't have you." Mr. Lin cracked his knuckles and said threateningly, "Will you come willingly, or should I take matters into my own hands?" Jimmy assumed a defensive position, saying, "That you could come here is truly surprising, but if you want to take me away, no way. You are not my match." Then he took a run-up, charged forward, and threw a punch at Mr. Lin. In his mind, he was surprised and thought, "So fast, his skill has reached level D. How is that possible?" Mr. Lin used his long legs to deliver a kick to the stomach, causing him to fall back. He lifted his jacket and took out a dagger from the waistband of his pants, coldly throwing it forward. The knife flew quickly and embedded itself straight into Jimmy's hand. He cried out in pain, angrily grabbing the dagger and asking, "Where the hell did you come from? That organization doesn't have people like you." Mr. Lin calmly replied, "If I let you know who I am, then I wouldn't be here." He continued, "You know very well what you have done. Now, I will only ask you one question, hoping you will cooperate." Jimmy pulled the dagger out, sneering. "Do you think I will be scared? Don't delude yourself into thinking you can get anything out of me. Mr. Lin said nothing, only pulled out another short knife from his waistband. Jimmy turned pale with fear, anxiously asking, What do you want to do? Mr. Lin lightly stroked the sharp blade, calmly saying, Didn't you say you weren't afraid of death? Then let me test that. After that, he made a quick cut across the back of Jimmy's hand, blood oozing out, then another slash to the thigh, causing Jimmy intense pain and tears to flow. He skillfully twirled the knife in his hand and said, Don't worry, I'm very professional. I will only cut through your bones. There's no danger, it will just be very painful. Jimmy was in agony, sweat running down his face, screaming, You're not human, you're a devil. Lin Yi, holding the knife, coldly replied, Is there a devil as handsome as I am? After saying that, he prepared to swing the knife at Jimmy again, who, in fear, shouted loudly, No, don't! Tears streaming down his face, he could only admit defeat. I will tell you everything. Lin Yi, upon seeing this, sneered. Next time you try to act cool, make sure to check who you're up against. He pulled out a piece of paper from a box, wiped the knife clean with it, then sat down on the sofa and commanded, Talk. Who is the mole you guys planted in the organization? On the other side, Chu Yuluo and her people were all tied up tightly. In front of them stood a man smoking a cigarette who asked, Why did you guys chase us to the end? Was it fun to secretly follow us? Chu Yuluo coldly huffed, It's you who caused 13 of our comrades to die unjustly. She clenched her jaw, swearing, This grudge, we will definitely take revenge. The man laughed loudly, his expression full of malice. Of course I'm not afraid. Welcome to seek revenge. But right now, you all have been captured as prisoners. Now, before you, there's only one path to survival. His eyes were filled with wickedness as he laughed. I need the names of your organization of scientists. Just hand over that list to me, and I will let you go. Chu Yuluo frowned, feeling like she was listening to a joke. I scoff. You can dream. The man with a thick beard reminded, his voice full of mockery. Beautiful lady, don't be so quick to refuse. I know you don't want to cooperate with me, but that doesn't mean the others will feel the same. He leaned on his hands, looking towards Ningche. Seeing himself in the crosshairs, Ningche was startled. Indeed, he pointed directly at her and ordered his men, Bring her here. I've been waiting for a long time. 2 thugs grabbed Ningche, forcing her to stand up. Ningche was both terrified and furious. Bastards! Let me go! Seeing her struggle, the pockmarked man pressed a knife against her neck, threatening, You better behave, or I will send you to meet God right now. Ningche heard this and fell silent. After that man used a knife to tear at her red outer clothing. Ningche was left with only a black shirt, her face flushed red with anger and embarrassment. The man sneered and then took off her black shirt as well. Let me see what you're wearing underneath, he said. In the end, Ningche was left with only her bra. She did not dare to open her eyes to face the reality before her. The gray-haired man was so anxious he was on the verge of tears. Let my captain go. If you have any guts, aim for me, he yelled. The bearded man laughed loudly. Don't worry. Today you all have to die. Once I'm done playing, I'll deal with you all. He then ordered his accomplices, strip them of all their clothes, and throw them on the bed. Ningche was the first person to be thrown onto the bed. Her dress was ripped apart, and the others fared no better than her. The thugs tore at the clothes while excitedly shouting, Wow! What a body! Ha ha! The bearded man also joined in on the fun, ordering, You all get out! Then he approached Ningche, and suddenly the door burst open. It was Lin Yi. He kicked the door in. The bearded man and his accomplices turned to look at him in unison. He clenched his jaw and asked, Why are you here? Lin Yi did not respond, but instead took a black gun out from his pocket. Footsteps were approaching, and the owner was Lin Yi himself. He stood behind Jimmy's subordinate. Seizing the moment when the thug was not paying attention, he delivered a blow to the head that caught him off guard, causing him to cry out in pain. The cigarette he was holding flew out of his mouth, making him look quite miserable. Without waiting for the others to react, Lin Yi swiftly drew the gun from behind his back. He unhesitatingly aimed directly at the thugs and fired. This time, there was no way for them to escape. Two of them standing behind Qiu Yuluo grimaced in pain from Lin Yi's gunfire. When he turned around, Jimmy's subordinate collapsed to the ground from Lin Yi's unexpected strike. Sweat was pouring down his face as he fearfully inquired about Lin Yi's identity. "Who the hell are you?" Despite being terrified, he still attempted to threaten, "Wait for my boss to arrive, he will surely kill you." Lin Yi paid no mind to the threat. He blew on the gun's muzzle and nonchalantly replied, "How much longer he has to live depends on heaven's mood. How can he come here to save you guys?" The thug could not believe what he had just heard. His face turned pale at Lin Yi's words. Stammering, he asked again, "What? You have made the boss?" At the same time, Lin Yi used a knife to cut the ropes binding Ning Che. Her hands were bruised from the tight bindings. Lin Yi casually responded to the question from the chatterbox, "Don't worry, he's not dead. I kept him alive because he still has his uses." He turned to Ning Che, who was still trying to come to her senses, and said, "Team leader Ning, does your Team 3 still recruit people? I feel like Team 2 isn't developing at all." Ning Che, no longer afraid, happily replied, "I will ask Boss Liu." In the meantime, Lin Yi was cutting the ropes binding Tao Cheng, while Qiu Luo, in the corner, watched and wondered with many doubts. Why is Lin Yi here? How could he fight with Jimmy? Tao Cheng praised, "You kid, we really underestimated you. Who would have thought you would become the ambush soldier in this mission?" Lin Yi, not modest at all, confidently answered, "It's nothing." As he spoke, he helped the man stand up. In one corner of the room, a woman saw Lin Yi laughing and talking with Tao Cheng and suddenly became anxious. She shouted, "What about me?" It seemed she feared that Lin Yi would forget about her. Expecting him to untie her like the others, she was taken aback when he roughly grabbed her hair. Lin Yi angrily said, "Do you still dare to speak to me like that?" The traitor was engulfed in pain, with fear clearly visible on her pale face. Lin Yi continued, "If it weren't for you, wouldn't teams 2 and 3 have not lost so many people?" Ning Che was a bit surprised. She adjusted her scarf and asked in disbelief, "Wang Bing Yu, how could being cautious and hardworking lead to this?" The traitor resisted, not wanting to be exposed, and immediately retorted, "What are you talking about? Are you calling me a spy?" Lin Yi would not back down. His angry expression caused her to lose her composure again. He said, "Do I need to bring Jimmy over here to stand face to face with you?" This time, she was truly frightened and couldn't utter any explanation. At some point, Qiu Yuluo appeared beside Lin Yi. She forcefully shoved Lin Yi's hand away and walked straight towards the woman. Qiu Yuluo didn't hesitate and slapped the traitor hard across the face. The woman with the surname Qiu was so angry that she clenched her fists and shouted loudly, "Why did you do that?" The woman, now untied, fell to the ground, beginning to explain. "Our clans have declined. The projects of Team 3 that I invested in abroad not only collapsed but are also missing a lot of money." She hugged her swollen face with one hand, grimacing as she continued, "If I don't do this, our family will be done for." Those words did nothing to lessen Qiu Yuluo's anger. She still wanted to give that woman another slap. "Is that really the reason you betrayed us?" Before she could make a move, Ning Che tightly grasped Qiu Yuluo's wrist. Appearing calmer than Yuluo, she said, "All right, now is not the time to discuss this. Let's take her back and wait for Boss Liu to handle it." Qiu Yuluo took the opportunity to resolve her suspicions and turned to ask, "Lin Yi, how did you discover this?" Their conversation was serious and cautious. Lin Yi explained to Ning Che and Qiu Yuluo about the incident. "Before the meeting, you both spoke and acted in a way that led to the deaths of 13 people. In light of what had happened, Lin Yi began to voice the suspicions he had. This also means that part of the intelligence was compromised, which is fairly accurate. Therefore, I suspect there is a spy within the organization." Ning Che crossed her arms with a serious expression. "So you intentionally created a conflict with Yu Luo setting up a false signal to leave the organization and then acted on your own? Lin Yi pointed at Yu Luo standing opposite him. I didn't intend to conflict with her, that's the truth. He continued talking about the current situation of the organization with Ning Che. But I told Liu Hong about my thoughts. He didn't object after all. It's a matter of life and death. I still want to live for a few more years. Sun Si, standing beside them, began to piece together the events and seemed to understand the situation. He spoke about the incident that occurred with Lin Yi. No wonder we were drugged shortly after boarding the ship. It turns out it was all her doing. Yu Luo stood aside, worried about the recent events. As she glanced at Lin Yi, she thought to herself, for this operation, thankfully he's here. Otherwise, we would have died here. Lin Yi directed the others towards the door, pointing ahead to remind the three about the upcoming plan. The helipad has 2 of their helicopters. Let's drive them away. He continued to provide additional information. There's also a person named Jimmy back in 2010. Yu Luo seemed to have made her calculations quickly and turned to respond. All right, we'll go over there and take a look. The door was suddenly flung open, allowing everyone to survey the situation around them. On the floor was the bloody scene of an agent. It was Jimmy, who lay lifeless after being dealt with by Lin Yi earlier. Next to him was a black suitcase containing important items of the organization. At this moment, Ning Che was stunned by the scene and exclaimed, "Is he dead?" Lin Yi glanced at Ning Che's reaction to see what she would say next. Finally, she concluded with a remark, "Lin Yi, you are really ruthless." Turning towards the black suitcase, Lin Yi pointed out a few suspicious points. This suitcase is for transactions. I don't know what's inside. It needs to be taken back for investigation. The suitcase was opened, revealing mysterious blue vials belonging to the organization. Ning Che looked at the vials, picked them up, and smiled, indicating her acceptance of Lin Yi's strength. This time, you've made a big achievement, but I'm very curious. How did you subdue Jimmy? His skill level is decent. He has already reached level D. Jimmy lay motionless on the floor, blood dripping from his mouth, his face pale with his eyes rolling back. Lin Yi replied with a triumphant expression, "I'm not bad either." Ning Che closed the suitcase and spoke to Yu Luo and Lin Yi about what needed to be done next. It's now 1 a.m. Everyone on the ship must be asleep. Let's take him away now. Lin Yi and the 3 others headed to the helicopter landing area, where a helicopter was already waiting. Lin Yi pointed at the helicopter and asked, "Does anyone know how to fly a helicopter?" Sun Si confidently placed his index finger on his shoulder and said, "Both Ning Che and I have pilot licenses." The helicopter began to take off, approaching the large yacht ahead. Below was the vast ocean with the blue of infinity. Sitting in the helicopter, Sun Si and Ning Che looked out, full of curiosity about the scene before them. "What's going on? There's light on the sea?" Yu Luo looked out the window, feeling incredulous and skeptical. "Where is it?" Sun Si turned back to report the situation. "At the stern of the ship, at the 1 o'clock position." While Lin Yi's group was approaching in the sky, suddenly, a small boat started speeding straight towards the yacht. The surprise and unpredictability caused Sun Si and Lin Yi to look down with skeptical expressions. "What's going on? Could someone be boarding the ship at this hour?" The small boat raced quickly across the surface of the sea, piloted by a clown wearing a mysterious mask, a green outfit, a light yellow tie, and with blue hair slicked back. Notably, he appeared in such an unusual manner at this moment. Lin Yi was stunned by this unannounced appearance. Could it be him, the one Lin Yi had encountered in a previous battle? Turning to Sun Si, Lin Yi quickly shouted, "You all go ahead! I have to go down!" Sun Si was confused about what was happening and quickly asked, "Going back? To forget something?" Lin Yi remained adamant. "Don't ask. Turn around immediately." The helicopter hurriedly turned back to the landing area and landed quickly. Yu Luo, full of questions, looked at Lin Yi and asked, "Did something happen? Does Lin Yi not need to go down with you?" Lin Yi slammed the door. "This is my personal matter. Then he rushed inside, saying loudly to the people on the plane, "Everyone go back first. Proceed with the original plan. No need to wait for me." Lin Yi continued to shout back in a hurry, "My private plane is parked at Nation M Airport. Just report the name Lin Yi, and you can drive it directly." The elevator door suddenly opened in an instant, surprisingly. It seemed that someone had just rushed out from there. Just in time, Lin Yi ran in and caught sight of the suspicious figure in a blue outfit with a mask, urgently running somewhere. Without hesitation, Lin Yi took quick steps, running fast to chase him in order to follow the actions of the mysterious agent he had encountered before. Reaching the corridor, Lin Yi was frustrated for having lost track of him. "Damn it! Lost the trail." He placed his hand on his chin, beginning to reason and examine the key points regarding the appearance of this strange clown. On the ship, an ordinary person could not become his target. The most special identity here is, in Lin Yi's mind, was the presence of the special person. It must be Vardana. Lin Yi began to run hurriedly into the elevator, shooting through the suspicious floors, aiming to find traces of the masked agent. As the door opened, Lin Yi had not yet collected himself when he was stunned upon exiting the elevator. He was taken aback, sweating with worry and somewhat incredulity at what unfolded before him. At that moment, the image of the housekeeper lying in a pool of blood echoed loudly, "Lin Yi!" But he heard the voice of the one he needed to confront. The masked man stepped out of the room with the black leather shoes of a gentleman. Beneath that was the guise of a cunning figure, unpredictable. He had come face to face with Lin Yi, with a black suitcase in his hand concealing something important, while the mask seemed to portray the very strange expression of the man with the smile of a dangerous predator. Meanwhile, on the floor, his victim lay in a pool of blood. The suitcase dropped carelessly to the side, clearing the way for a fierce hand-to-hand battle between two masters. The masked man raised his finger, provoking his opponent. At this point, Lin Yi began to crack his knuckles, feeling intrigued by this confrontation. He thought to himself about the strikes that would incapacitate the mysterious person in front of him. "Last time we met, I was only E rank, but now the system grants a combat power reward of D rank, so I'm sure I will win." Suddenly, he exerted himself and charged toward Lin Yi, adopting a fierce stance. As he prepared to crush his opponent, he almost shouted, "Ah!" Lin Yi did not evade or flinch in the face of his reckless charge. He stepped forward, his fist clenched, ready to consume the beast-like figure in front of him, with sharp eyes that seemed to see through his opponent's moves. The two fists of these two men, eager for blood, collided, seemingly capable of shaking the very walls around them. Lin Yi felt an overwhelming excitement, ready to fight with every ounce of strength to make up for the battle he had missed before. The masked man was thrown back further than ever by the powerful impact. He was likely surprised by the might of someone he once considered weaker than himself. He began to show signs of worry and, above all, astonishment towards the one he used to look down upon. Now Lin Yi made him acknowledge, "Oh, you've become formidable." He dashed forward once again, his legs moving rapidly. He threw his next punch at his opponent, his eyes like those of a wild beast fixed on Lin Yi. He had become more serious. He anticipated the movements of the opponent, intending to draw the hidden dagger he had prepared earlier with a fierce expression, swinging it up. But the dagger veered off course, grazing past the shoulder of the man in front in his surprise. Lin Yi was furious at the trajectory of the dagger. WTF, missed again. Knowing he could not defeat him, the masked man decided to flee, grabbing the briefcase and sprinting away. Lin Yi watched as he hastily attempted to escape, targeting the elimination of the mysterious clown. But then, he was quicker by a step. He hurled himself towards the window, jumping down onto the boat that had been prepared in advance without hesitation. Lin Yi was frustrated to have lost track of his footprints once again. Looking down at the blue sea, WTF, let him escape again? We fought last time. He must not be using all his strength. Otherwise, how could he have improved so quickly in such a short time? Lin Yi calmly returned to where the clown had just exited to assess the situation and check on the safety of a girl named Vardana. Vardana, in her light purple dress, was unconscious lying on the floor, shocking and worrying Lin Yi. Without hesitation, he quickly grabbed a glass of water and lifted her up, aiming to bring her back to consciousness. "Vardana, wake up!" Vardana gradually came to, still hazy about what had just happened to her. With a vacant stare full of confusion, she questioned the current situation. "Why are you here? Where did that clown go?" Lin Yi, holding a glass of wine, looked at Miss Vardana with a drunken expression and said, "I came to find you and just happened to run into him, but I couldn't catch up. He ran away. What on earth happened? Can you tell me?" Miss Vardana, holding her glass of wine, seemed not entirely sober. She ran a hand over her head tiredly and replied, "Actually, I don't really know what happened." Lin Yi looked at Miss Vardana as she sipped a little wine. "I opened my eyes and saw a masked clown burst into my room, stealing my things." Lin Yi bent down, showing concern for her. "Did you not even try to stop him?" Miss Vardana looked at him with a pitiful gaze. "That clown was too skilled. He didn't give me a chance to draw my gun. He knocked me out." Lin Yi replied, "Could it be a part of Jimmy's gang? Playing dirty?" Miss Vardana lowered her eyes. "If they intended to do that, they could have just snatched the items from my hands during the deal." The helpless young lady said, "I'll be back when the sun rises. I'll report this tomorrow. I'm arranging for a helicopter. We'll go back together." Lin Yi caressed her hair, allowing her to lean against him, gently comforting her. "Okay, you should rest a bit more." At the headquarters of Black Gold Corporation, a powerful man holding a luxurious black cat questioned, "Has there been any news from Jimmy yet?" The short-haired blonde woman replied, "No news at all." This powerful man was Jeffrey, the owner of Black Gold Corporation. He put a cigarette in his mouth and responded, "He just called me a while ago saying the mission was completed. Now there's no contact with him. Something must have happened. It's too strange." The stylish blonde woman, with a tempting figure, was Jenny, a member of Black Gold Corporation. She answered, "However, internationally, their reputation is extremely good. They surely wouldn't play dirty, although this is the first time doing business with the Vardana family." Hearing this, the owner of Black Gold Corporation immediately ordered, "You all head to the dock right away. They might be leaving by helicopter from the ship. Hurry up, investigate this matter clearly." Upon hearing the command, the employees responded in unison, "Yes, boss." At home, Lin Yi and Miss Vardana were holding hands. Miss Vardana happily asked Lin Yi, "Are you going back to your country? I'll take you to the airport." The two looked at each other with deep affection. Lin Yi replied, "All right." So they got into the car together and headed to the airport. In the car, Lin Yi was somewhat on guard about his surroundings. Miss Vardana then asked, "What's wrong?" Lin Yi looked outside and said, "Something doesn't feel right. There's a car following us." Behind them was a black car that was tailing their vehicle. Miss Vardana's expression changed, slightly irritated. "Who on earth is audacious enough to follow me?" Then she turned to the driver and commanded, "Driver, stop the car." The car immediately came to a halt, and both of them got out. The black car also stopped, and Jenny and her accomplices stepped out and said, "Hello, Miss Vardana. Let me introduce myself first. I am Jenny from Black Gold Corporation." Miss Vardana crossed her arms and replied, "The deal is done. I want to know what you want from me." Jenny appeared unconcerned. "We know the deal is done, but we couldn't contact Jimmy." Jenny's face looked somewhat gloomy as she looked at Miss Vardana. "I believe you must know where he is." Miss Vardana, shocked and panicked, asked, "Jimmy is missing?" Jenny replied seriously, "That's right. I hope you can give me an explanation." Vardara crossed her arms in front of her chest, angrily saying, "The goods I traded with you have also been stolen. Do you think it's reasonable for you to come to me looking for him?" Jenny unexpectedly said, "What do you mean? The base mine is not in your possession?" Vardara responded, "There are cameras on the ship. The items were stolen by someone else. As for your people, it is highly likely they have been killed by the robbers who took my goods." Jenny immediately pulled a gun from her bag. She aimed the gun at Vardana and said, Don't try any tricks. I don't want to hear any further explanations. Come with me. You can explain to my boss. Vadara retorted, Are you talking to me? You better clarify your identity. She was furious, turning purple, and continued, If you dare to shoot, I guarantee you will all die in front of me. What are you to me? Jenny pulled the trigger of the gun, threatening Vadana. I'm just following orders. If you dare to leave, I will dare to shoot. Lin Yi stepped forward from behind. He placed his hand on Vadana's shoulder and said, Let's go. Ignore them. These people are a bunch of fools who want to die. Telling them is pointless. Jenny then asked, Who is he? He doesn't look like your bodyguard. Is he the man you've just found? Vadana shyly replied, It's none of your business. Jenny continued, What is his relationship with you? I don't care, but regarding our matter, I don't want outsiders to know. For the safety of both parties, I am preparing to take him to meet God. Saying that, she aimed the gun at Lin Yi. However, he swiftly grabbed the gun from her hand. Jenny gasped, Ah! At that moment, Lin Yi had seized the gun from Jenny and pointed it straight at her, causing her to panic. Jenny immediately commanded her subordinates to show themselves. What? Jenny's henchmen appeared, and Lin Yi decisively shot at them, taking down all of Jenny's followers. After that, Lin Yi hit the back of Jenny's neck, causing her to collapse to the ground. He then turned to Vadana and said, Let's go, or I'll miss my flight. You deal with these people. Vadana thought to herself, What a decisive and handsome man. At that moment, in the airport lobby, Vadana expressed her gratitude. Mr. Lin, thank you. If it weren't for you, I would be in a terrible situation, possibly falling into the hands of Black Gold Corporation. I owe you this time. Lin Yi replied, As long as you don't like me anymore in the future, then we can still be good friends. I have to board the plane now, so I'll be going ahead. Saying that, Lin Yi waved and left. Vadana shyly said, If I could, I would really like to be good friends with you, but I still have the Hua family behind me. I'm sorry, Lin Yi. The plane Lin Yi was on had landed. At the airport, Ningche and Yu Luo were waving to welcome him. Ningche took Lin Yi's suitcase and said, This time, you achieved great merit. Boss Liu said he wants to credit you with a level 2 merit. Lin Yi wrapped his arms around the waists of the two girls and said, It's my first time participating in the organization's activities, and I've already received a level 2 merit. That's impressive, isn't it? Ningche responded, That's impressive. Not many people can get level 2 merit on their first time in the organization. Lin Yi then said, Next time, I'll strive for level 4. Let's quickly find a place to eat. I'm starving. Ningche immediately replied, What do you want to eat? I'll treat you to celebrate. At this moment, in the restaurant, they ordered a sumptuous feast. Yu Luo raised her beer glass and said, Lin Yi, I toast this glass to you. I was wrong in the past, so don't hold a grudge against me anymore. Lin Yi and Yu Luo clinked their glasses. Lin Yi downed the drink in one go and said, Knowing wrong and correcting it makes you a good girl. Yu Luo then asked, By the way, there's something that Boss Liu asked me to ask you. Why did you suddenly turn back to the yacht on the way back? What happened? Lin Yi replied, This is my personal business. It's not related to this mission. You go back and tell him it has nothing to do with this operation. Yu Luo and Ningche replied in unison, Got it. Lin Yi enjoyed the grilled meat and continued, When you left, the black suitcase that everyone took, has the stuff inside been sent for testing yet? Yu Luo said, It has been sent, but there seems to be no progress. She continued, Today I asked a bit. Boss Liu said it would take a month to decode it, but we suspect that it contains drugs that can alter gene sequences and enhance human physicality. Lin Yi responded, I see. No wonder in recent years, countries on Telia Island have become increasingly powerful. It seems they cannot be separated from this. Yu Luo said, That's right. They have always been a powerful nation in science and technology. At the moment, internationally, only they hold this scientific and technological project, so there are many things that cannot be helped, and there is always a gap. Lin Yi then replied, "There is still a long way to go." Then he stood up and said, "All right, let's disperse. We will meet again for the next mission." At Chaoyang Group, when Lin Yi was walking into Tian Yan's office excitedly, she said, "Xiao Yi, aren't you supposed to be on a business trip?" Lin Yi took off his glasses and mask and said, "How did you recognize me with my glasses and mask on?" Tian Yan replied, "The scent on your body, I could tell just by smelling." Lin Yi placed 2 cups of water on the table, pointed at them, and said, "Did you buy these for me?" Lin Yi sat down and said, "You two each have one. The boss is right upstairs, and you still brought me stuff. That's really exciting." Noticing earlier, Lin Yi suddenly hugged her. Tian Yan, feeling shy, sat in Lin Yi's lap. Lin Yi said, "Listening to you, it seems quite stimulating." Tian Yan took a piece of candy from her pocket and said, "Next time, don't do that anymore. If GCEO sees, it wouldn't be good." She licked the candy with her tongue. Tian Yan escaped from Lin Yi's lap, and Lin Yi asked, "What are you busy with? Every time I come in, I see you looking sad." Tian Yan replied, "The sales report has been done for 2 days, but the amount still doesn't match. The difference is more than 1 million. Then she turned and massaged Lin Yi's shoulders and said, "Sister, remember, I am quite skilled in this area. How about I help you with it?" Lin Yi smiled mischievously and said, "So what about you, sister?" Tian Yan replied, "I'll give you a little more incentive." With that, she suddenly ducked under Lin Yi's legs and said, "I'll do my thing, you do yours." At that moment, Lin Yi had returned home. Kyun Nian, upon seeing him, broke into a bright smile and said, "Ah, you're finally back." Lin Yi asked, "Missed me?" Kyun Nian cheerfully replied, "I missed you so much I could die." The two kissed passionately, and in Huanxi village, the sunlight bathed each roof under the vast blue sky. Lin Yi stood in the peach orchard and casually picked a ripe fruit from the branch. He raised it to his mouth, took a bite, and exclaimed, "This is really good, so sweet." The juicy peach melted in his mouth, leaving a refreshing aftertaste. Just then, Ling Wei unexpectedly appeared. She smiled brightly, holding a task board with the work he had completed. "Peaches ripe, work completion rate 60%, reward 5 billion RMB. Issuing new system task for planting crops, total income 1 million. Reward is 200,000 proficiency points." Upon hearing this, Lin Yi became extremely angry, to the point where his hands curled into fists. He shouted loudly towards the other party, "System, are you kidding me? You expect me to sell a bit of fruit for 1 million? Unexpectedly, Ling Wei lunged forward, without any warning, and planted a kiss on the young man's lips. Just as they were immersed in the ambiguous atmosphere, she admonished her beloved master. Life always requires us to welcome new challenges. However, in his current state of mind, he showed no mercy and pushed her away forcefully. "Don't spout useless philosophy. No wonder your Telia civilization was destroyed. It's because you're all so vile." After hearing his words, she quickly switched to another topic. "By the way, master, the fruit grown in golden soil has the effect of beautifying the skin and improving the body's metabolism. I invite you to explore it yourself." He rested his chin on his hand, pondering for a long time before replying, "This function isn't too bad." Lin Yi took out a stack of paper and a pen, starting to calculate. However, he was still unhappy about the task at hand. His tone was filled with lament and complaint. "Selling this little thing for 1 million is really a bit excessive.